Hello, everybody. All right. Ooh, that'll wake you up in the morning. How you guys doing? Let's see. Welcome to Wednesday. Man, time is flying by. That's fun. Yeah. All right. Let's see. We got loops part 2 today. Good morning. Today's an energy drink kind of day. Not had a chance to make the coffee. This is unfortunate. Yeah, man. All right, so we're going to finish up loops today. Let's see. Hydration, yeah, I got this energy drink. That'll hydrate me, I'm sure. I mean, it has to, right? All right, let's see. What do we got here? So we're going to finish up loops. Right, that's the first part of chapter 4. So I'm thinking I'll do one quiz on the loop portion of chapter 4, and then another on files. We can try and keep up with that, the weekly quiz, just that flow of things. And there's enough about loops, I think that'll make it worthwhile. And then next week we'll come back for some basic file operations here, again in chapter 4, and then we'll keep moving on. We'll pick up methods. We'll start on chapter 3 that week. We've got a break for winter break. And then we'll come back for some midterm review and then the midterm exam. Now this one will be a timed exam. So unlike the quizzes, you can start and open and come back to anytime you want. These ones need to be, once you hit start, you'll have 2 hours to hit submit. That idea is that everyone gets the same 2-hour time frame there. And I think I want it on 310. If that day doesn't work for some reason, I might be able to go just a little bit longer, but I don't want to leave it open too long. They said usually it's best just have it maybe open for a day, maybe 2 at most. We should be fine for that for the midterm. And we'll pick up the last couple topics there. We are cruising along. We got a little bit of miscellaneous stuff on week 15, week 16. Again, dedicated just for you guys to work on your final project. And then, so what I had done last time for the midterm was like 15 quiz-style questions and then 3 programming questions. So it'd be, hey, answer these short answer style. So the quiz for chapter 3 should be due coming up soon. Let's take a peek at the calendar. So the quiz for chapter 3 due by Friday, 11:59 p.m. It's coming up here. Yeah, these classes, they do move. They move for sure. All right. So yeah, that quiz is coming up. Yeah, so the midterm will be about 15 questions that are similar to your quizzes, kind of short answer, fill in the blank, maybe the true-false style, where if it's false, you have to correct the statement. D2L is, I'm sorry. Is it because of the calendar or there's other stuff? Yeah, so that's moving along. We'll do the midterm and then, yeah, the final project. So, oh, because it shows in the calendar even if you've done it. Yeah, that's not the best. So on 5.3, the plan is to do presentations where you guys can show off your final projects. I will probably do a Zoom call for that one synchronously. I know not everyone might be able to make it. I want to get as many people as who can make it in, and we'll see what we can do. Just maybe 5 minutes to show off your final project. And I think the math works for that because we had 24 people, and if it's 5 minutes a person, then 12 people can go in 1 hour, and 24 people can go in 2 hours. So it should work. Again, it's just running a project, explaining it, and then showing us anything in code, maybe just answering a question or two from the audience. So it should go well on 5.3. So when we get a little closer, we'll come back and talk about that as well. Assignments, even for handouts? Oh, okay. Yeah, you could. I mean, yeah, you can do a lot of fun stuff with D2L. It's very flexible, right? Yeah, I don't do a lot with the modules. I know other people like doing a lot with modules, or they do 1 module per week. But because the only thing I'm really giving you guys is the lecture archives, I think, having that broken up by week, I don't know if that's feels like more clicking than just coming to the page and finding them all here. One thing to note, though, once you do get enough links on the page, you do have to click more. So once we get a little further along, it won't show the new ones till you go to more, and that's a little bit sad. I still don't know, but sorry, excuse me, swallowed wrong. Ooh, sorry about that. Yeah, I did wonder about that, Biggie, why it was submitted 3 times. Makes sense now. Makes sense. Yeah, so I don't put a whole lot in the modules here because we don't have a lot of stuff. But yeah, sure. Why not? All right, so we're ready to talk about loops. Or any questions about the next project that we're working on? Let's see, I can pull up the next project if you want. So for project 2, this is sort of a little lunar lander simulator. It's a not even a game, but sure. We're just having some fun with loops here. Okay, so they got a couple options, some different commands that we can send to that lunar lander module. We can tilt positive or negative. We can tilt the y-axis positive or negative. We can use our thrusters to, shoot up a little bit away from the surface. We can just do nothing because we just want to keep decreasing as we're already in a good position. Or we can activate the self-destruct sequence, which people aren't supposed to pick. So the only thing they can do is cancel it. I imagine it's like a little simulator ride or something. I don't know. We're just pretending people can do the lunar lander. And they're like, oops, you clicked the wrong button. Please cancel. Whatever cancellation code you want. Just come up with something. Okay. And it just keeps on going until they reach the surface. And they've either landed successfully, if their axis tilts are 0, or it breaks. Right? Game over, otherwise you win. And then all of that inside another loop saying, hey, do you want to keep playing? You want to keep playing? You want to play again? You want to play again? You want to play again? I didn't add the rubric for that yet. We can do the rubric now if you guys want. Let me grab all of that. So for some reason, it takes me to a new page. All right. Oops, nope, I did want that. So there's complete, and there's missing. All right. Let's make sure we get all these criteria here. So this is command for lander, x-axis tilt, positive, and negative. We'll do 2 points for that. The y-axis tilt, another 2 points for that. Thrusters, increase distance from surface by 2. Change by right, so you're changing your x-axis tilt will change it by 1, either positive or negative. Y will change it by 1, positive or negative. Your thrusters will take you 2 more, whatever distance unit we want to use away from the moon. We'll add a nothing. That's another command, right? Command for lander, nothing. Get 1 unit closer to the surface. All right, so all of the help command. So if you don't recognize the command, right, we should display the help. Right? And then the self-destruct sequence, lander, destruct, only allows the user to cancel. Select mode. So you can't issue other commands. Like once you've entered self-destruct, the only thing they're allowed to do is cancel that self-destruct. Like don't let them change the tilts or use the thrusters or anything else. Right? We're not setting anything off like that. And all the commands run inside loop. That will run till the lander distance from surface is 0. Come on. Give me another criteria. There it goes. Oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. I clicked it too many times. Woo! Too many. Yeah, we don't need that many. There we go. Okay, and then error simulator in the loop, asking the user if they want to play again. And that last one, let's see, one of these, that's 16 points out of 15, so that one didn't work here. So I need to do custom points. So the last one is just a 1-point loop there. Everything else will be, let me move that one up. Okay, so the command X tilt, Y tilt, thrusters, the do nothing command, the self-destruct command, and if it's not recognized, the help command, right? Or help, tell them all the things that they can do. These are display all their available options here. Give them the list of valid commands. Displays the list of valid commands. Okay, I'll run inside a loop. It keeps going. No, that's probably more complex than we need. Oh, you know what? I'm missing one here. So your tilts need to be random values. So here we go. We add another one. So x-axis tilt and y-axis tilt, random values. Oops, start as random values between 10 and -10. All right, so one of these has to be worth less then. We'll make help worth a little bit less. Right, so that loop then should display or should tell the user what the current axis tilts are and the distance from surface. Right, so inside the loop, like every time the loop runs, like, hey, here's your current X tilt, here's your current Y tilt, here's your distance from the surface. What command do you want to do? Or what command do you want to send the lunar module, lunar lander? Right, they pick a command, we do the thing, and then we come back. Right, here's your distance from the surface, here's your X-axis tilt, here's your Y-axis tilt. Right? Okay, that's good. That's good. So like the X-axis tilt positive or negative, like you need whatever the command you want to be. Like you could be X plus, you could be X minus. I don't know. You can make up. It could be long, it could be short. However you want to do it. You're really just matching on strings, right? And saying, hey, if this string equals that string, the input string, that sort of thing. Okay, cool. So we got 15 points there. This overall score thing is nonsense, so don't worry about that. Overall score. I don't know. Sure. All right, so we got the rubric. So that one, again, is worth 15 points. So that is more than the previous project. I'll be working on grading those shortly. I want to get those in for you guys to see how things are going. 28, do we have 27 people? That might make scheduling a little hard for that last day. That's okay, we'll make it work. All right, awesome. Ready to move on to loops? Let me fire up NetBeans here. Give it a minute. We'll take a peek. All right. Come on, NetBeans. You can do it. Maybe. Come on, NetBeans, wake up. Wake up. All right. I think we had loops in here. Yep, I'll put it in the existing loops project. And you don't need any of that chapter 9 stuff. Don't worry. We'll get there next semester if you're continuing on. What's upset about our loops? What's it upset about? I thought this worked. Why did it give me a red error parsing file? Huh. I think it just hasn't woken up. I haven't changed it. How high of a number do we want to guess? 1. Look at that, we guessed it in one guess. Rock. We lose. No, we don't want to play again. Okay, so remember the loops we've looked at so far. A while loop. This is bad. Just always use curly braces, please. Right? Always use curly braces. NetBeans requires a dad joke to open. I like it, Dusty. You know, a friend of mine, I've been posting these nonsense beard pictures online because you have to do something to entertain yourself when you're at home all the time and don't go anywhere. He said the monkey tail beard is the dad joke of beards, and that just made me very happy. Let me be honest, like I don't know, I thought that was a really funny way to put it. So it's maybe it's worth it for being ridiculously itchy. I don't know. It's crazy. So curly braces, like just like when we have an if block, even if it's a one-liner, I'm always going to tell you to use curly braces. I cannot recommend this enough. I think they are so good. You should always have curly braces. And not that any of you guys would remember, but years ago, you remember, if any of you who are Mac fans, they have their own browser that ships with the Mac OS. They don't use Edge or Internet Explorer or Firefox or Chrome by default. It's their own browser. I think it's Safari is what it is. And years ago now, I don't remember how many years, there was a bug that someone found in Safari that made SSL communications unsecure or insecure. One of those two terms is right. Insecure? I think it's insecure. In that they could break it. Sorry, my sugar's a little high. Take a shot here. And when they tracked it down, it turns out the bug was because one of those amazing developers over at Apple didn't use curly braces around one of their if statements. Actually, they weren't using them anywhere with all of them, and they put a second command underneath, thinking it would run, and it would not run. All of that, this critical SSL bug, made all communications across Safari untrustworthy until they could patch it because of some missing curly braces. And that just makes me sad. Like, all you had to do, just add some curly braces. You'd have been fine. So, you know, it's just, okay, sure. All right, so just like an if block, we use curly braces with the while loop. The while loop is kind of like an if. It says, if this thing is true, run the code inside of it. What's different about the while loop, let's look at this one over here, is that when it gets down to the end, it comes back up to the top and says, yeah, and they probably omitted them for aesthetics. They probably did, knowing Apple. If we get to the end and we come back up to the top, if it's still true, we're going to go again. If it's true, we're going to go again. If it's true, we're going to go again. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that whatever we're checking inside this while expression eventually has a chance of turning false. Right? Because we want to make sure eventually, it's going to stop. Otherwise, we have an infinite loop. So that's the while loop. And because it's kind of like an if, it might not ever run. Right? If this isn't true, it never runs. So a lot of times what we had been doing is we'll set it up to make sure that it runs at least one time if we want. Like, numbers less than 0. I set number at 0. I know this is going to run. That sort of thing. A different loop, if you want it to run at least once, you can use a do loop. Again, I hate do loops just because of the syntax. That's for no other reason than that. So do loop is like a while loop, except it will run at least one time. And then at the end of it, it checks the while condition that you put at the end, including a semicolon. And that's the reason I hate them, because of this stupid semicolon over here. Oh, look, I even left you a note. Do loops are terrible and require a semicolon after the while condition. Yes, they are terrible. So a regular while loop, regular if block, right? No semicolons, nothing. The do loop, your while condition gets a semicolon because they have to be difficult. Okay, so do whiles are great if you want to run at least one time. Sure, you can do the exact same thing with a while loop if you want. Just make sure you set something that's not true. Like this string for play again we have to use anyway because it goes inside of our while condition. I have to define it. So I might as well set this so instead, let's see. So instead, we do loop, just set the variable, make sure the while runs. So like if my loop was while play again equals yes here. Oops, there's too many whiles there. Oh, sorry, this string needs to come up here. Play again. Example equals y. Y. There we go. Right, like if you have to define it anyway, like just define it and make sure that it will be true, because then the loop will run. And then you can change it again at the bottom, right? Does that make sense? So I will always use whiles. I don't often use do loops because it's just easier to remember this and not have to remember the semicolon stuff. That's just me, okay? So I'll just leave all that commented here because otherwise we have an infinite loop. Okay, so those are our loops there. All right, so a couple new things then. So I don't remember if we've talked about these operators. I feel like we have, but if we have an int for my favorite number, and say we set it to 42, right? We can say my favorite number plus equals 1. Right? We've done this one, the combined assignment operator. Right? We could say my favorite number plus plus. This one I don't think we've seen yet. Have we seen those one? That's the increment operator. We could also say my favorite number minus equals 1. Or I could say my favorite number minus minus. Right? So these do essentially the same thing. It's a little bit tricky in that you can abuse these things, in that you can use them in weird ways. So what this does here is my favorite number plus plus. If we were to print this out here, so if we start at 42, we add 1 to make it 43, and then we print my favorite number plus plus. What value do you think we're going to get printed if I told you that these are essentially equivalent here? Take a guess and tell me what value you think we're going to get. Well, it starts at 42, and we add 1 to be 43, so this will make it 44, right? But what's going to print out is not 44. No, because this is the post-increment operator. Rock, no, okay, 43. So what happens with this plus plus is it uses the number wherever you're using it, and then it adds 1. There's also the pre-increment operator. You could say plus plus my favorite number. You could pre-increment. So this is the post-increment, this is the pre-increment. So the post-increment uses the value, then adds 1. The pre-increment, and adds 1 to the value, then uses it. So it uses it, I mean, it will give you its value. So when I ask for my favorite number, I'm using it, I'm getting its value. So in this case, I'll get the current value, and then I'll add 1 to it. In this case, I'm going to add 1 to the value, and then I'll give it to you. So it's going to look like we're skipping a number here. Because we get 43, then we add 1, and then we add 1 to 43, and we get back 44. Right? So pre-increment and post-increment. So post-increments are pretty common, just plus plus. Some people like the pre, sure. I mean, they're essentially the same, just depending on what you want to do with it. So if you see a place, and this is the decrement, right? Minus minus. So most of the time, we just use it interchangeably with this, because typing plus equals 1 is 1 whole character more than typing plus plus. And by golly, us developers are lazy, and we don't want to have to say plus equals 1. We just want to say plus plus. And why not? Sure, it's a quick little shortcut. Okay? So those are pre-increments and post-increments operators. This is just shorthand. So what we could do then with that is we could do another loop, right? Why not? So we could say, while my favorite number, plus plus, is less than 50. Oops. That's out. My favorite number. So it's going to check its value. Is it less than 50? Then it's going to add 1. Right, so this will check the value. Is less than 50. Then add 1. So it's going to be funny here inside the loop. 1, 1, rock. No. There we go. We get 50. Right? We get from 43. Oh, hang on. Where was it? That was the print. That was the print. So our loop here then is 44. Right? We get 44 to 50. Because what happens is, when it's 49, it says 49 is less than 50. True. And then it says, oh, 49 plus plus. Add 1 to it. So it becomes 50 inside the loop. Even though our loop says stop as long as we're only run as long as we're less than 50, because we're doing this post increment, it changes to 50 after the if has been checked. So just the timing of those is careful. And I never recommend you put them in while loops like that. That's just weird. Anyway, right? That's just weird. But we can do that. Okay, so while loops. Yep, while loops, curly braces. So I'm going through making sure we're doing the right thing here. This is a fun use of while loops here. So if we want to ask the user for a value and then make sure they gave us a value that we like. Okay, this is really common. So we're going to have, let's say, enter value between 1 and 10, and then we'll have an int in, I don't know, value is integer.parseInt keyboard.nextLine. Okay, and then we're going to say while value is less than 1 or value is greater than 10. Right, we're going to use this loop and say, hey, if it's not in the range that I want, because I said 1 to 10 is valid, so less than 1 is invalid or greater than 10 is invalid. Right, just using this logical ORing. So if either one of these is true, the whole thing is true and the while loop runs. We'll say that's not a valid value. Enter number between 1 and 10. And then We just reset value. You don't need to tell Java it's an int. It already knows it's an int. We just changed the value here. So this is an input validation loop. So it only runs on invalid input, whatever we've determined to be out of range here. This is really handy. These are good loops. 1 and 1. Let's knock. No, we don't want to play again. All right, so let's give it 0. No, let's give it 11. Let's give it 50. Let's give it 5. All right, so it keeps us inside the loop until it gets something that means this is false. And the only way these are both false is if we're within the range that we've defined. So greater than 1, greater than or equal to 1, less than or equal to 10. So just be a little bit careful with the ways that you say, because we want this to be true if it's invalid in an input validation loop. Because you want it to run only if they give us a bad value. Okay? All right, cool. That's a good one. We did do while. Okay, the next loop here. These ones are good. These are really common loops. It's relatively common that we would do something up to a certain value, or something a fixed number of times. And we do it so often, we have our own loop for it here. We have what's called a for loop. And a for loop has 3 sections. It gets an initialize, it gets a check, and it gets an update. And they're all separated with semicolons, because we like semicolons. So typically what we do in a for loop is we initialize an explicit counter. We might say int count equals 0. We're initializing a value for use inside the loop, right? So create a counter for use in the loop. Okay? Then we're check. We'll say, okay, as long as count is less than, say, 10. And then our update, well, what do we want to do to count? We're going to take count plus plus. We want to add 1 to count. So it says start count off at 0. As long as count is less than 10, we're going to go. We'll add 1 to count every time we're done. Okay, so this is kind of like a condensed version here. And then again with curly braces, we might, we'll just print, say count. Okay. So we know it's going to run a fixed 10 times, right? It's going to run at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Once count is 10, it doesn't run anymore. So this part is like the while condition, the check or while condition. Okay? And then an update. It doesn't have to be plus plus. You can do anything you want here. You could add 10, like plus equals 10, and you could subtract numbers. You could add 2. I mean, anything you want. It's just typical that it's plus plus. And then a couple good practices is that you want this variable, this whatever this counter is up here, you only want to change it up here. You don't ever want to change it inside the loop, because that can get really confusing. Because it's made to just run this a fixed number of times. And if you're changing it inside the loop, you're going to get confused. So we want to leave this alone, only change it up here. You might print it, you might use it lots of places, that's fine, but only change it up in the loop here. So it's the exact same loop as saying int count equals 0, while count is less than 10, print out count, and down here, count plus plus. So these exact same loop, right? So you can see why us lazy programmers like doing this in one line instead of initializing, putting the condition, updating. Let me give that a little format, right? So it lets us initialize, add the condition, and do the update all in a single for loop header. Right? They call this the loop header. And a for loop is also a pretest loop. If this is not true, it never runs. Again, it's very likely because you're setting the value here that you know it's going to run. But it's possible it doesn't, right? You could put other things here. And the silly thing about count, or the for loop, is these things are actually optional, right? So we might say for nothing, and we might say my favorite number. Favorite number is less than 100, I don't know. Nothing. As long as it, I mean, technically doesn't even need a condition here, but it would just be an infinite loop at that point. We'll print my favorite number plus plus. The sections are optional. You should always use them anyway. This is silly, right? I mean, don't use the for loop at this point if that's all you're doing. Right? Just use a while loop, right? Like if you're not going to use the initialize, you're not going to use the update, just do it in a while loop, right? Use a while loop. You don't need them. Right? So if you don't need to declare a value that you're going to be using, and you don't need to update the value every time, just do a while loop. You'll save yourself a headache. Okay? Nice. So that's our third loop. So we have while loops, which are pre-tests. They may never run. We have do loops, which will run at least once. They call that a post-test loop. And then we have for loops, also a pre-test loop. But usually with the for loop, you know it's going to run because you're putting something in right here. Pretty obvious. Okay? You guys are doing great. All right. Yep. If you want, you can have multiple values initialized inside the for loop. So this will be, we'll say for int x equals 0, comma, int y equals 10. And we might say x is less than y. Nope, x is less than y. Y, x plus plus, y minus minus. Nope, what did I do wrong? Did it wrong. Yeah, just commas. Commas. I think I confused it here. Doesn't know the x and the y. How did I get it confused? X equals 0. Huh. That's interesting. X equals 0. Y equals 10, which, yeah, you should be happy with that. The semicolon. Wow. Maybe just add like x val, y val, x val, y val, y val. No, still doesn't like it. Interesting. Huh. Nope. X val and y val. That should work. I'm a little confused right now. X val and y val. Must be doing something dumb. Equals 0. And int equals something. Huh. Let's take one of those out. So it's definitely upset with that. It's fine with the multiple updates. It's interesting. Comma. Y val 10. Wow. I broke it. I broke it. Interesting. It likes this. Doesn't like me telling it it's an int again. Huh. Okay. So, sure. Yeah, I know it didn't like when I had it redefined. I wasn't using it anywhere else, was I? I don't have another y val anywhere. Let me search. Y val. Yeah, that's the only one there. I don't know. All right, I guess you just declare them once. Hey, Jory. Thanks for coming on by. This is Oakland Community College. I think I've got more info in my bio there in the Twitch profile. Okay, so I guess we don't give them separate types. That's fine. So if we have an x val and a y val, we can go do something with it. Again, just you can declare multiple, update multiple. Again, this starts to get confusing at this point. I don't recommend it. Because it just gets confusing, right? But you could. Sure, we could say, hey, how about we do x value plus y value, right? Should be a bunch of 10s. Because we're taking this one up by 1, that one down by 1. Let's see what we get. Guess from 1 to 1. Gets rock. No, we don't want to play again. Look at that. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. A bunch of 10s. Okay. Awesome. So we can update multiples. So another common thing we can do with loops, I like these, are we'll call them like an accumulator loop. We're going to keep adding values, until the user tells us they want it to stop. So a for loop is great if we know how many times we're going to run something, right? It's relatively fixed. But just a while loop, say I had a stack of receipts and I wanted to just add them all up. Add one, add one, add one, add one, add one, add one. And I don't know how many are in the stack. I don't want to count them. I just want to keep adding, right? So we could just keep on going until they give me a weird value. So we might say, hey, I've got a double for total. We're going to start off at 0. And then we're going to ask the user to add some receipts. Right? So then we have a double for current receipt. We'll say it's 0. Sure, why not? And we're going to keep on looping. We're going to say while my current receipt does not equal, or we can just say while it's greater than or equal to 0 here. Right? We could ask the user to enter a receipt value or -1 to stop. Right? So this -1 here, it's an unexpected value. Right? It's one we don't expect to get normally. So we're going to use it as a special value or a sentinel value to tell the loop to stop. So we could just keep on adding. We could take total, our current receipt equal to double.parseDouble of keyboard.nextLine. Right? And here's the funny thing though. If we enter a -1, I don't want to add it to the total after I figured it out. Okay? I only want to add it to the total if it's not -1. So I'm actually going to do it up above. I'm going to take my total and I'm going to add to it the current receipt. Because I know current receipt starts at 0. So 0 plus 0, I'm not going to change anything. I'll ask them to enter one. If they enter something that's not negative, right, I'm going to come back up. My loop will say yes, keep on running. I'll add it to the total. And I'll ask them to enter again, enter again, enter again. So the condition here is just a little bit funny. You want to make sure you don't do something with that sentinel value. Right? Or we could just check. We could say if, current receipt is greater than 0, let's add it. But again, I think this is more typing than it needs to be, right? Because we're already checking that up here. We might as well just do it first. It doesn't always work. So like sometimes you have to have an if here. And you need to check inside the loop. In our case, we don't. I'm going to leave it commented out because we can just add it up here. But you can do these other sentinel loops with other things here, right? And it's just going to keep on letting me add values and add it to the total. And when I run out of receipts, I enter -1 to stop, and now I have my total. Okay? You might also have something where we're going to be listing, I don't know, colors. Why not? Right? So you might say enter color to paint or stop. Stop entering colors. Sure, why not? We're going to say we'll have a string for color. We'll keyboard.next line. And we're going to loop while color does not, or dot equals ignore case, stop. And we want to do this while it does not equal stop. So we're going to use that not operator. So the not, right, inverts the true or false. So if it does equal stop, this will give me back true. Not true is false, and false means the while loop stops running. And really, it's kind of annoying to have that twice. So I'll usually do it like this. I'll say string color equals that. Okay, and then we would do something with the color value that they entered or whatever we wanted to do, right? We could add it somewhere. I don't know what we're going to do with it, but that's fine. So as long as it's not stop, we're going to keep on going. So we can do it with strings too, with sentinel values. Right? Just keep on entering something until you give me a weird, there's no color called stop. It might be stop sign red. There's probably a crayon out there somewhere named stoplight red, but that's fine. We're just, let's ask for some values and we can keep on going. Again, there's not a lot we can do with these right now, so don't worry too much about it. But just know you can use them with strings, right, for these sentinel value loops. It's probably a little easier for us to do them with numeric values right now. Okay. And then another thing I want to show you. Oh, you know what? We're getting close to how far are we? Let's see. I got a decent amount more. No, actually, no, we're about done. So let's just power through. We'll do about 10 more minutes, and then a break time. We can just break for the day. You can get a little time to work on the project or try some of these things out before study group. How's that sound? All right, cool. No one's complaining. It's a good sign. All right. So, other fun things we can do. Let's say for hour equals 0, hour is less than 24, hour plus plus. I want to show you all the possible times on a clock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a loop inside a loop. Minute equals 0, minute is less than 60, minute plus plus. Hey, we got not prof in the math gang coming. Thanks for coming out, folks. How you guys doing today? Oh, it's good. We're talking about loops in Java here. And we're going to show you all the possible times on the clock. So we want to do a formatted print, right? We've talked about printf to do these formatted prints before. I want some digits here. I want colon, and I want some more digits here. And what's cool with digits is we can format it. We can say, hey, I want 2 places, because I want these to be doubles. Yeah, your loops are like interesting mathematical loops that don't make any sense to me, but that's awesome. So we want 2 places every time for the digits, even if it's 0, because we want it to output and look nice and pretty here. All right, we got to get through all the rest of the junk in here. The Mobius. Ooh, is that a loop? I guess 1 to 1. It's rock. No, we don't want to play again. Enter value 1 1. Like, see, we just keep entering numbers. It's going to keep adding them up. -1 to stop. Stop. We don't want any colors. Uh-oh. Oh, the format specifier is invalid. I did the format specifier wrong. That's a bummer. Java printf Number formatting. Let's Google it, because I don't remember. Do any of these look good? Stack Overflow might be. Let's take a look. Let's see. That's not the listing I want. I want like a list of formatters that are valid. Let's try the first hit. See if we get anything good. I passed it because it didn't look like a good article, but we'll give it a try. Did I just do it wrong? Oh, yeah, I did it wrong. I didn't give it the numbers. Missing arguments. I didn't even read my error. So the error is missing format argument exception. Oh no, that's the format specifier. It doesn't like my format specifier. That was right. I did read the error. What doesn't it like? Digits. Format. D for digits. Decimal numbers. There we go. Base 10 decimal numbers. Width. Let's see. We don't want any of those. We want pad leading zeros. Ah. I guess we want a pad leading zeros. Is that it? 0D? 0D? Let's try that. But we also need to tell it which ones we're giving it. So we need hour, we need minute. Let's try that. Hey, do you guys want to try our guessing game that we wrote? You can help guess a number. I think you math folks are probably pretty good at that. How high of a number should we guess up to? No? No takers? Alright, that's alright. We'll just guess one then. We can guess a number 1 to 1. Rock. No. 1 again. -1. Stop. Oh! Missing format width exception. Alright, didn't like that. I'm going to go back to the 2. I feel like the 2 was better. And I think we just were missing some here. Oh, that's alright. No problem. Have fun. Just trying to be an engaging Twitch streamer here, right? Talk to chat. 1, 1, 1. Oh, we lost with 1. Oops. 1. -1. Stop. There. All right. It's giving us spacings, but not the double zeros. That is not what we want. Why are we doing this wrong? Those are booleans. It's time. Number formatting. None of those were right. Formatting, how about leading zeros? My search was bad. Ah, 0, 2. So pad with zeros up to 2 wide. That's the format. And then don't forget we also need new line characters because printf is terrible. Let's try it again. So what happens here, right? This is a nested loop. So for every time this hour loop runs, the minute loop runs start to finish. Right? So this is going to run 60 times for every hour. And then hour will go up 1, and then minute gets reset to 0. It runs 60 more times. And gets reset. 1, -1. Stop. There we go. And we get all the possible times here. As for every hour, we're getting all 60 minutes before the hour loop goes to the next hour. There, we even have the padding. Okay, we figured it out. Right, here's midnight, all the way on down through 11:59 p.m. Should we add seconds? I know you guys are wanting to add seconds here, so let's do that. So let's do another nested loop. So we'll say int second is 0, second is less than 60, second plus plus. Right? We'll just add in another colon percent 02D. We want 0 paddings, 2 wide digits with second. And then we'll see all possible seconds of all possible minutes of all possible hours. So for every hour, the minute loop runs start to finish. For every minute, the second loop runs start to finish. So if a loop is inside another loop, you're getting it to run from start to finish until this one even moves one time. Rock. No. 1. -1. Stop. Look at that. All the times with all the seconds. It's cruising. So it turns out print lines or prints are actually relatively slow. If I wasn't printing, it'd be done like that. But printing out to the console takes the computer a fair amount of time. As you can see, this wasn't so, not super complicated, but it's just a lot of operations. Okay. All right. You guys are with me so far? Those were our nested loops, a loop inside of a loop. You can do while loops inside of while loops. You can do for loops inside of for loops. You can mix and match. You can have a while inside of a for inside of a while. Any way you want to go about it, it's perfectly fine. You can put a loop inside a loop. Okay. And then last but not least, there's 2 commands that I want to discourage you guys from using. Oh, look at that. You can see my text messages. I should probably turn that off. Where is that one? Why is it not? It doesn't even show. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, loop inception. Loop inside a loop inside a loop. I'll give that a format. Okay. So the last thing we can do is 2 special commands. It's break and continue. Nope, just continue. Okay, they mean different things. So a break will stop the loop from running. So if we say for number is 0, number is less than 10, number plus plus, and we want to throw one of these in here for fun. Let's we'll print the number. It's out number, and then we'll say let's add another crazy condition here. We'll say if number is equal to 4, break. Wow, why does it hate my loops? Oh, number's already defined. Okay, so int loop count. Sure, I'll use loop count. Say if loop count is 4, break. And what break does is it immediately ends the loop. Ends the loop. Nice. Break the loop. Stop. Just stops running completely. Let's not do this right now because we don't want that to print out. Is that okay? I think that will just make it take too long. We're going to see our last loop here should print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then stop because we're using break. And you can use break inside of fors, you can use break inside of whiles, you can use break inside of do's. No, 1, -1, stop. There we go. We get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Break stops the loop. So I don't recommend you use them. They often make loops harder to read. Occasionally they're really good and useful, but I will always try and avoid it. Right? That's just me. So continue then is going to say stop running here and go back to the top. Continue. So continue, immediate jump to the header. And the header's like, hey, is this thing still true? In our case, we also will run our update. So in this case, we should just skip 4 because it says continue. One. -1. There we go. So this loop now, we skip the number 4, right? We get 0, 1, 2, 3. When it becomes 4, we say continue, means jump up to the header. So stop running the rest of the loop. Jump back up. It might be the end, it might not be the end. In our case, we skip. So again, I find these awfully confusing, right? If there's a reason to just not do something, you could just use an if. Like an if or an else. And like, don't do it if it's true, otherwise do the rest of the loop. So they're not terrible. I find them confusing. So I try not to use them very often. That's just my particular style. Okay, so let's break and continue. That is it for loops, folks. We have gotten through our do loops, our while loops, our for loops, right? And different things that they're good at. Right? The for loop is really good if you know you have a fixed number of times. Because we can put it all right here in the header. We'll run this many times, boom, we're done. Right? While loops are good for other things, right? Doing some input, doing validation, right? That validation loop is really handy. We'll say, hey, until they give me a good value, keep them inside the loop, because I don't know how many times it's going to take. Right? I don't know how many times it was going to take them to guess our number. I don't know how many times it was going to take, or how often they wanted to play rock, paper, scissors. Right? You just want to keep on going until they give me some kind of value. So in this case, our play again, why? Yes, we want to play again here was sort of like a sentinel value. Yes means we want to keep on going. Anything other than yes, we're saying stop. So not exactly. So a sentinel value is usually a particular one that means stop. We're saying a particular one means yes. So it's the same kind of idea. We just keep on going until they give me something we don't expect. We have our loops. Okay? You guys are doing great. We put this out here in GitHub. And we can call it a day. You guys take the extra time. Please, please, please get started on project 2. Get started early. Okay? This is 100 winter. Get started early on the project. Take advantage of study group. That is today at noon. So you guys will have plenty of time to go grab some lunch first. And I'll have office hours later today. This afternoon you can drop by, ask me questions. There's the individual tutoring through the Academic Support Center that is free. And if you're not feeling like you're up to speed, it's only going to get worse, right? If you're feeling behind, we're going to keep on moving. There's no slowing down. There's no coming back to these things, because we need to keep using these tools and techniques as we keep moving on to the next content and the next content and the next content. We don't ever get to forget any of it, just like your math classes, right? You need all the things you've learned in the next math class, right? Okay? So please reach out. Let me know if something doesn't make sense before it's too late, okay? Because we're in week 5. We actually have now finished week 5. So we're a third of the way through the semester. We are flying, okay? So do let me know. Yeah, it just keeps on adding up. That's right. So I heard someone told me one time calculus was just a mean way of making sure you know all of your algebra and your trig. Hydration, thank you. Yes. Cheers. All right, folks, let's see who else is around. See if there's anyone else we want to go pester. We can send a raid off their way, perhaps, just for fun. And you guys can go work on your projects while you learn something. Let's see. Calculus without algebra and trig. Oh, so that's the, let's say, without the transcendental something or other. I forget. The book that we use was, has that name. With early transcendental somethings. All right, you want to watch some guy fix his car? He's kind of interesting. Or fix cars. Let's go check him out. So he's Machine. Did I spell it wrong? Nope, there he is. All right. We'll go check him out. He's a part of the Knowledge Fellowship. He's a friend. We can head over that way, learn something about cards if you want. Don't forget study group at 12. I've got office hours at 1. And we'll talk to you later. Take care, folks.